Hello class, this is a video tutorial on calculating the length of a missing side using trigonometry. This is the part 1 of a 2-part series, and let's get straight into it. Similarly, in my previous videos, we first had to determine which of the trig ratios we have to use, and then place the given information into that ratio. So let's look at this example first. So from our given information, always starting with our reference angle, what ratio can we use? Well, what ratio should we use? Well, we have, from this angle, we have opposite, so let's label that as O, and we have the hypotenuse, which is H. So that is SOH, S-O-H, which is sine. So we have it as sine 15 degrees 10 minutes is equal to opposite, which is x, over hypotenuse, which is 10. Now here's where it gets a little tricky, because a lot of students tend to forget about their algebra. Since this is x over 10, it is actually x divided by 10. So what we can do actually is multiply. So we want to make this x value on its own. In order to make it on its own, we have to multiply this right hand side by what it's being divided by. So x divided by 10, so we have to multiply it by 10. But if we multiply, sorry about that, if we multiply this side by 10, we must multiply the left by 10 as well. So we need to multiply this by 10. Now the right hand side will make it that it's x by itself. And how we write this down, it's going to be 10 times, well, we can just write it as 10 sine 15 degrees 10 minutes. We can write it just as 10 times sine 15 10 minutes. This is the value which we will be inputting into our calculator. Now, not to confuse you, I'm going to make it so that it's x on the left and our answer on the right. So I'm just going to flip this equation around just to make it look a little bit neater. So it's x is equal to, and now I'm going to input this value into my calculator. Take a look here. We now have, I'm going to input it exactly as it's shown here. So it's going to be 10 sine 15 degrees 10 minutes. Close the bracket. Equals, that gives me 2.616 ... because I don't want to write all those in. But what I will do, well, me personally, I will always round it to 2 decimal places. It's going to be, so first decimal place, second decimal place, the 1. We must always look at the value behind it and see if we have to round the 1 up. In this case, since 6 is past 5, we have to round 1 to 2. So it becomes 2.62. I haven't written any measurements here, so let's just assume that these are in centimeters. That is at 2 decimal place values. Let's move right along, and I actually invite you to pause the video and try and solve these questions on your own as well. I'll be solving these in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Once again, for my information, we need to figure out which of the ratios we have to use. Is it sine, cos, or tan? For my angle, we have this value here. This is adjacent to our angle, and 15.5 is the hypotenuse. That is ka, A-H, that is cosine or cos. we take it as cos 20 degrees 30 minutes is equal to x over 15.5. Once again, we're going to multiply both sides by this denominator. I'm not going to write that one in. It's now going to become 15.5 cos 20 degrees 30 minutes is equal to x. X is now equal to this value I'm about to put in, 15.5 cos 20 degrees 30 minutes is equal to, that is 14.518, which rounds up to 14.52 centimeters. That is at 2 decimal place values. We rounded it to 2 decimal places. Moving right along here. Give these ones a go. Here we go. Similar story. We have to figure out the ratio. Is it sine, cos, or tan? Well, from our angle, we have the opposite. And we have the adjacent. TOA is what I can recall. So that is tan of our angle is equal to x over 20.15. Let's now multiply both sides by 20.15. It'll now become 20.15 tan 37 degrees 2 minutes is equal to x. X is equal to, inputting our value there, 20.15 tan 37 degrees 2 minutes is equal to 15.202, which rounds up to 15.2. You don't need to put the 0. Oh, that's in centimeters. That's at 2 decimal place values. One last question for us to cover. Here we go. Lastly, from our angle, we have the opposite. And from our 90-degree angle, we have the hypotenuse. That will give us sine 62 degrees 3 minutes is equal to x over 3. That will give us 3 sine 62 degrees 3 minutes equal to x. Flipping it around, we get x is equal to, inputting, 3 sine 62 degrees 3 minutes. That gives us 2.650, which rounds up to 2.65 centimeters. And once again, that is at 2 decimal place values. I hope that gave you an insight to this first part in calculating the length of a missing side using trigonometry. Best of luck.